because Miss Rucker has other people, a whole bunch of people living in the property who's not on her lease.
Combative thing about getting something done. That's the problem. Like, I never had a problem paying my rent. If you come out here and fix your property, I give you your money. That's been the issue.
And Francis to go ahead. Yes. All right. Hey, Rucker, can Miss Francis, can you get off the phone? Thank you so much. Can you both raise your right hand for me? You swear or affirm to tell the truth under penalty and perjury of the law?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I do.
All right, I'm going to ask each of you some questions. No need to speak over one another. All right, so Miss Francis, does 4 lines of Abyssinia?
Let's go ahead and read that caption real quick. So it says, in today's case, a tenant decides rent is on hold until her sink stops backing up. The landlord says the only thing clogged here is her attitude. But when the judge hears both sides, it's anyone's guess who's about to get drained. Wow, okay. Well, that's what we're going to be reviewing today, y'all. Real quick before we get back into it, if you could like the video, I greatly appreciate it. Only takes a second, and it actually helps out more than you know. And also, if you could hype.
I have a written lease with Miss Rucker.
Yes, they do.
Okay, and is it expired, or is it when does it expire, or is it month to month right now?
No, it's she just moved in, I think, in June, so she has a year lease.
Okay, how much is monthly rent?
$1,800.
Is there a late fee?
Yes, $180.
Last time the tenant paid rent?
August.
Okay. All right, so 2 months, 13 days. I don't think I saw anything else on your complaint. So let me speak with Miss Rucker. Just want to confirm, Miss Rucker, do you have a written lease with the 4 lines of Abyssinia for $1,800 a month?
Yes.
Is there a $180 late fee to your knowledge?
Yes.
Okay. Last time you paid rent from any source?
Say that again, please.
The last time you paid rent from any source. So whether you or somebody else.
The last month that she stated was the last month that I paid rent.
All right, so tell me about, I know you said, I looked in your answer, you said you held rent on purpose. What's going on?
I have plumbing problems for the past 2 months. The plumbing issue is upstairs bathroom, where when we use the showers upstairs, the water will back up and come up through the sink downstairs in the kitchen, and it will stay there for a couple days. So, and then it eventually go down. And then I had been buying Drano, but I had notified them of this issue. And the plumber had came out and let them know that maybe, the lines need to be flushed. But, upon that was a back and forth thing of making it seem like we poured grease in the lines and things of that nature. But I told her that I wasn't going to pay rent until these problems were fixed.
Okay.
I was going to say, this tenant is very honest in comparison to a lot of tenants that we review sometimes. She seems like she's very honest. She just answers questions very directly and appearingly and seemingly honestly. However, it looks like the landlord feels like there are some more insidious things behind the scenes going on, i.e., maybe some type of sabotage, which I actually could see that as being feasibly possible, especially if you just know that you can't pay the rent or you don't want to pay the rent. Then it's like, maybe you can do something to try to sabotage, like she said, pour grease down the lines or whatever, in order to then have that as an excuse as far as not paying rent, right? Because it seems kind of trivial. I mean, it's a big deal, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I mean, if that is what possibly happened, because I can't imagine she would just randomly say that and not have any proof. And, if you pour grease down the line, I feel like that'll be kind of obvious. Unless she's just talking about when they wash dishes and stuff like that. When you pour grease down the drain or whatever. I guess I don't know why I was thinking hot grease, where it like burned the pipes or something. But she's probably talking about just regular grease after you're done cooking, which it's kind of a gray area. But let's get back into it.
And you didn't have anybody fix it. You just essentially, and she didn't have anybody fix it either, or somebody came by but they didn't fix it, or was it fixed?
It hasn't been fixed. The plumber that last week, the last time the plumber came out and seen the problem, it hasn't been fixed.
Okay, please. Yeah. Okay, and is it like when you say sewage? Is it like fecal matter, or is it just backing up?
Just backing it up. It's no fecal. Let's just say it's this pretty much a shower and a sink. So when we use a shower and a sink, so you can tell that it has this, it's like it's stopped up because it'll start having a puddling effect at the bottom of the tub. But then it's like when you go downstairs, it's the water is coming up through the drain into the kitchen sink and it fills up. Like I have videos of it. It fills up and it stays filled up like that, both sides, for a couple days. And then after maybe like 2.5 days, it'll be done gone down or whatever. And
do you only have one bathroom, or?
Yeah, we have two. Well, it's 2.5. It's a 2.5 bath. So both upstairs have showers and full bath.
Okay. All right. Well, let me hear from Miss Francis. Were you guys aware of the plumbing issue?
Judge, let me start from the beginning. Miss Rucker moved into the property in June. In July, there was an issue with a tree going into the outside into the drain line, backing up into the property. It was initially an HOA issue, so we had went ahead and had a plumber come out and took care of everything exactly what she said in the happened. We had a plumber that came out and completely did everything. Everything was solved. The HOA took care of the part, which it cost us over $3,000 on our end alone to fix that issue. Then the HOA had to play a plumber to clean the main line outside, which the HOA paid almost $9,000 to get that done. Everything was completely done. We gave Miss Rucker in July. We gave Miss Rucker $1,000. She only paid $800 for her inconvenience. She was saying that yes, we agreed that happened. We did give her $1,000 off for her rent in July when that happened. Okay, everything was fine. She said everything was done, and she paid rent in August. So this happened in July, and she paid rent in August after the HOA paid, resolved that case. We paid, resolved that case. Then she in August she called and said that her sink was backing up. We went out there. I went out there personally. She called I think a plumber or somebody else who initially had worked on the job. When I got out there, she would not allow me to come into the property. So I met the plumber at the door, and he told me, he said, I said, is it the problem that we paid you guys for to do initially? He said, no. Everything else, as far as the upstairs and the bathrooms and the toilets and everything, he said, all that is resolved. That is not the issue. He said, the issue is the sink. He said, the sink is backed up because it looked like there's grease and a whole bunch of stuff that's going into the property. We have another property manager who's also dealing with Miss Rucker. The property manager went out there. She would not allow the property manager into the property because Miss Rucker has other people, a whole bunch of people living in the property who's not on her lease. They also have a dog on the property that's not on her lease. She would not allow me access. She would not allow the other property manager access to the property. The plumber, when I met out there, told me that she could take care of that grease thing, whatever is going on in that sink. She could take care of it herself. I called her and I told her, I said, well, we are not responsible for you having food down in the sink, grease in the sink and extra people in there doing a whole bunch, whatever they're doing in your sink. We're not responsible for that. Okay. She decided she wasn't going to pay. The other property manager a week ago, before we filed the eviction, went by the property, said, okay, let's just go ahead and take care of it. She would not allow nobody into the property. She would not allow the other property manager, and that's who was trying to get onto the court as a witness.
All right.
Yes.
So the
issue that she's complaining about, that
You're gonna overtalk the judge, ma'am, because she already is. I see now that I had the judge's voice to compare it to. I see she really is yelling. Because the whole time I'm like, why is she screaming at the top of her lungs when she's talking? Like screaming. And you can see it on the judge's face. I thought it was just me who was getting driven crazy by just her yelling. Like, who can listen to that all day? And she's very long-winded. Ma'am, either talk at regular decibels or you need to be more succinct and be able to tie this all together quicker. Because you just trying to give us all the information. Goodness gracious. You don't just get the whole courtroom all day. Now, it seems like there's a lot more going on. This is very complex. It's a lot going on. And I feel like this is one of the rare instances where a landlord is giving irrelevant information that doesn't have nothing to do with what we're here for. That is egregious, but it seems like you're okay with it. Like, it seems like that's not the issue. It seems like you're still willing to take the rent and allow her to be a tenant, even though she violated whatever the original agreement was. And she's brought other people in there. Otherwise, you should be evicting her for her violating the contract, right? But I guess this is an eviction hearing. But from my understanding, the eviction hearing is because she wasn't paying rent, not because she brought the dog in and brought all the other people in. So I wish she would just stick to what we're here about. You know, if it just has to do with her not giving access, then okay, that makes sense. She's not giving access to allow you to do it because she has other people in there. But let's move on.
Has been resolved. This is one new issue with the same that she's responsible for.
I got it. Hold tight. So first things, one, Miss Rucker, has anybody from code enforcement come out and said anything?
So the incident she's talking about is the first incident that occurred when I did move in. I called.
But since that time, since that's been resolved, has code enforcement been about your sink?
I put in for code enforcement to come out, but I haven't received my call back.
Okay.
So nobody has been out yet. I did put in a call for somebody.
So let me tell you, if your sink is
I can't wait to see the way that the judge is going to be able to bring all this together. Because, see, I'm glad his reaction is kind of like mine. I'm trying to understand all of this, and it's just all over the place. And it's like, man, you really got me having to think right now about like trying to make sense of all this chaos. I'm curious to see what he's going to ultimately do to resolve the matter in an impartial and objective way based on case law.
Backed up, that's something, but that's not going to deem the property uninhabitable. Not if you've got other sinks and things and it can go down. That's not an uninhabitable. That's not going to be justified for you to keep all the rent. I know she's saying that it could be on you, it could be on them. Obviously, it's important for you, if they've come, and to let them in to do that work. I do know that it becomes, once things are contentious, people don't want the people in the property, and it becomes problem, or people come over unannounced. I understand that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some credit, but the property is not uninhabitable, so it doesn't justify you paying no rent. And with you not having access to the sink for a period of time where it can be addressed, you may have, not legal advice, but you could have been better off probably just paying a plumber $100, $200 to try to undo the sink yourself, and then just justifiably writing it off your rent and paying nothing. But I'm going to give you some credit. It's not going to be a whole lot because it doesn't sound like it's a real permanent impairment to the overall occupancy of the property. But let me see what it's looking like since you paid in August and you're missing these 2 months.
Can I say something to you, Judge? It's not that. It's the fact that
the judge brought up a great point. See, this is the difference between somebody who's trying to solve the problem and somebody who's trying to get over. You really could have paid a plumber like $150. And really, that probably would have been a ripoff for them to fix your sink. You could have paid that, and then you could have just justified it and said, "Well, no, I had to pay this plumber, so I'm not. I'm taking this out of the rent that I owe you because I had to solve this, and you were taking too long, right?" And that would have been justifiable. And as long as you kept your receipts, if she ever tried to bring you back to court talking about you owed her this, you could have easily just cleared that up right there, and you'd have been just fine, and the judge would have saw it your way. So it's like it really does appear like you're trying to take advantage of the situation, and you're trying to get more out of the situation. You saw an opportunity to not pay rent. I like how he connected those dots. That was impressive.
Upstairs, the plumber said that it needs to be flushed. Like the part what she's talking about is a downstairs bathroom area that had a problem. There's a system where the roots were in that problem. Upstairs, the plumber says that he feel like it may be some of those non-flushable wipes, and it needs maybe the line needs to be flushed. It has nothing to do with grease being
Well,
trapped
why do
down
you
there.
have non-flushable wipes in there? You've been
No, it's not me. No, it's not
Ooh,
me. It's from
got
previous
her.
tenants. This is from previous tenants. These are from previous tenants. Like he feels like the
Mm-mm.
line needs to be flushed. That way, it'll be enough free flowing for it to be able to push the water
Did
through.
he tell you how much that would cost?
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. This is the same plumber that was used from the get go. He's the one who came out here to the property. He came in, went upstairs, he checked that area. Then, I explained to him about, how the process was going. Like when we take a shower, maybe every couple days, the water would fill up through the sink. He said he feels like the lines need to be flushed. Yes, he worked on the bottom bathroom. Yes, that took care of that.
So,
That's not a problem. The problem, like I said, is it's like bath
so
water and stuff is coming through the line. It's like
I got it.
something's blocking the line up.
But
Something.
I'll be frank with you. That is not going to be a basis to withhold all of the rent. But I am going to give you some credit. The total judgment without the credit, it would have been 4740. I'm going to make the judgment 4500 in lieu of the issues with the water. That'll be through the 13th of
Wow,
November. But
that ain't no
but I'll
credit.
be frank. What you've expressed to me may have been able to be resolved for far less than that. You know what I
I
mean?
didn't have a problem paying my rent. I told him to come fix. That's the
Oh, she not about to get indignant. Oh, not that she's about to get indignant. He brought up a great point. Look, she slipped up. She said what the plumber said. She talking too much. She said he told her it was because of non-flushable wipes. The judge said, "Oh, so you did mess it up. Why are you putting non-flushable wipes in there?" You should have been like, "Well, do you have kids that need to be wiped like that?" And it probably would have got exposed. She knows she's doing that, and allegedly. But here's the funny thing, right? Ma'am, okay, you're withholding your rent. What are you withholding your rent for? Clearly, the place isn't uninhabitable because if you're withholding your rent, if the rent, let's say the rent's $1,500. Okay, well, you're saying, oh, no, I needed more, far more. I needed a flush. Okay, you're withholding your rent. Go ahead and pay that money and just get it fixed then. Because why would you live in an uninhabitable place? You're still living there. So it just needs to get fixed. I'm sure you got kids, you got other people around you. Just go ahead and take care of it. You kept the money. So go ahead and fix the problem. But you didn't try to do that. It's just it seems like you're just trying to get ahead and get over on the situation. And that's why he's not really hearing it.
Be frank, what you've expressed to me may have been able to be resolved for far less than that. You know what I
I
mean?
didn't have a problem paying my rent. I told him to come fix. That's the thing I kept saying, come fix the property. And it seemed like it's always been a combative thing about getting something done. That's the problem. Like I never had a problem paying my rent. If you come out here and fix your property, I give you your money. That's been the issue. And
And
then
that
when they come out here,
and can I tell you something, Miss Rucker? That's always an issue. I'll be frank. Because there's always an issue. People want things fixed. Landlord want to say it's your fault, and I'm not saying this situation. That's just a
Hmm.
common situation. But unfortunately, your decision in withholding all the rent, because there are things you could have done, you just didn't know. It doesn't sound like you just didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you could have paid it for yourself and potentially deducted it, and then you
Yeah.
wouldn't have had this problem. But you didn't know that, and you just held it all. There are things that you can do, like repair and deduct for those kind of, particularly when it doesn't sound like they're $9,000, $8,000 type fixes, right? Less than your 4 months rent. And that's available to you. It's just that when you don't exercise that, then you lose the ability to do that. And so now it look like you just don't pay no rent. And I know you're like, well, I could, but when you don't, you don't.
That's a great point, because I didn't even think of that. So now I know that moving forward. We all know that. Like, if you really do have an issue, then you can just fix it yourself and deduct it from rent, and that'll be acceptable. I would think, especially when you're dealing with a private landlord like this. Now, I probably wouldn't do that if I'm dealing with like a major company. I wouldn't even bother. Like, maybe in that situation you would have had more leeway, but you're dealing with a private landlord. See, it sounds you've done things on your end that aren't necessarily acceptable, right? You had other people over, had the dog that you didn't report or whatever, allegedly. So it's a little bit more ambiguous. The lines are a little bit blurred when you're dealing privately. So yeah, you should have just did it his way. But again, she probably didn't know that. That wasn't even something that I had thought about. So that's fair.
Right before the eviction was filed, the other property manager went out to the property to fix the problem, to see what's going, and she wouldn't let nobody into the property.
Okay.
Ma'am, you already won.
You keep saying that, but you're not there. I'm just trying to figure out how is you to say somebody came out here if you're not there? That's the thing.
Well, I will say this, Ms. Rucker. I mean, somebody can report to her now. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
That's the problem. Ain't nobody came out here. That's the thing. Other than when the one plumber came, that's been the only time that somebody's been out here. That's the thing. Like they keep saying they came, they never showed. That was the only time when that plumber who fixed the property the first time, her and him, that was the only time. Ain't nobody that's been out here. They ain't know. That's the thing. Like, do you know about the problem, but you ain't been out here to fix the problem other than the one time that the plumber came out here and you told the plumber to tell me to use Drano to fix the problem.
I wish the judge would ask her, like, well, ma'am, do you want to leave? Do you want to just go ahead and leave? Because it sounds like it's just bad. So just go ahead and find somewhere else to go. Then she'd be like, well, no, this is my home. Well, I get it, what you're saying a little bit, but you've been staying there all this time. It's already happened. It's a thing of the past. So you've stayed there and remained there. So you have to pay. And you have to pay moving forward as well. Unless you're going to allocate that towards fixing whatever problem you're talking about.
So Miss Rucker, and from the evidence, just as I'm finished writing this up, is that I think there's a dispute about what they believe is who's the cause of it. And now I will tell you, Miss Francis, that seems to be disputed. It would still be your responsibility to fix it if it's not clear that it's on her. That's why she's still getting some credit. But the point is, Miss Rucker, the overall issue isn't big enough from what has been discussed to where it would justify all of the rent being withheld. That's what I'm really getting on.
Yes, Your Honor. Because
so hold on. I don't want to hear no more. Frankly, you guys have talked a lot. So it'll be a money judgment for $44,500. The writ of possession will be on the 13th. You always have 7 days to appeal, Ms. Rucker, from a judgment, and that'll be the order of the court. You guys will get a copy in your email. You both are free to go.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good job taking control and shutting it down. We need more people, more judges like that. Goodness great. They just think they can just cut off the judge and walk all over the judge. But that was an interesting, very complex case. Very complex, but he simplified it. And what we found, it really wasn't that complex. It was really pretty simple. Because when you really put it in that context, it really is pretty simple. So we'll leave it there for today. If you could like the video, I greatly appreciate it. Only takes a second and it actually helps out more than you know. And also, if you could hype the video, hype is a new feature that YouTube offers where it helps smaller content creators like myself. And basically, when you hype, it actually pushes us to the extent that it pushes the larger content creators. So you just press the hype button, then it shows the points. And since I am a smaller content creator, we actually get more points per hype. And it was designed for smaller content creators. And then also Patreon's link below if you want to see self-improvement content as well. But until then, I'll catch you in the next video.